do you think that it is getting, the whole atmosphere is getting more vitiated as we go along?
Well, you are right. It is getting ugly, and it is not being done by one side or the other. Every 5 years, you have a situation when sides change. Okay? Or suppose, and when that happens, what one side considered right suddenly becomes wrong, and what was considered wrong on the other side suddenly becomes right. You see, the point is parliamentary democracy, or for that matter, democracy as a system of governance, requires the observance of a certain etiquette, a certain rules of procedure. And unless those that etiquette is observed, unless those rules of procedure are observed, the system cannot work. Rulings over the last 7 decades about what is done and what is not done. Now, if that is being violated, then it is an unpleasant situation. Open communications, between the government, between leaders of opposition. That is the prerequisite for functioning of parliamentary democracy. If there is no communication, if there is hostility, then communication breaks down. And when communication, whether at individual personal communications or group communications, they cannot work. The Speaker of House of Commons consults, the leading opposition parties so that there is no contention on these matters. Again, it's an exercise in communication and persuasion.
But surely that happens even now, sir.
Not sufficiently, to my understanding. There is an exercise of persuasion which is critical in democratic functioning. And the room for exercise of persuasion is always there. You may take a little more time. That's all. Okay, if there is contention, you adjourn the proceedings for 15 minutes, half an hour or so, maybe a full forenoon or afternoon. And then when you adjourn, you don't go home. You do quiet talking. What is said formally inside the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, much more work is done quietly in the back rooms, in the committee rooms, in the consulting rooms of either the Speaker Lok Sabha or the Chairman Rajya Sabha. The two gel together, and that exercise must never be abandoned. You don't cast doubt on the intentions of the other chap. He may have his own reasons. I mean, somebody gets up on a debate that has taken place where opinion is pretty clear. But there would be 5 people, 10 people who would not agree. And when you come to voting, those 2 or 4 or 5 people would raise their hands or stand up and say, "We want a vote." Now, if you ask them privately, why do you know the situation better than as good as anybody else? Why do you insist when you are not getting more than 2 votes or 5 votes? And they said, no, it's a matter of principle. The principle must be registered even if I am 2 out of 250. Chairman or the Speaker is a non-partisan observer of the game. That is critical.